Despite the fact that Laurent Jalabert holds a phenomenal lead on the overall classification in the Tour of Spain. 6 minutes 28 seconds on Olano. It's still giving other riders a chance to attack and try and get a victory. And this man here, you're looking at Ugrumov, is determined to do something in this race, which has been full of disappointment for him. So today, on stage 18, from Saint-Sauveur to Sabinanigo, he might well pull off the victory he has been looking for. He's been struggling with illness. He also got stuck behind that crash into Zamora when he lost about 40-odd seconds. He's been now tracked on this climb by two other riders from the Seiko team, Michel Bartoli and Paolo Forniciari. The whole act really came into being as the riders set onto the first climb of the D'Aubisque. It was Ugrumov that attacked on that first climb, some 50 kilometers from the start this morning on the stage, and he went up there. He'd already been with a breakaway group which included Bartoli, Ferrano, and they had set off together with Garcia Camacho and Serrano and Pascal Hervé at 30 kilometers. Ugrumov had got to that group. After some 20-kilometer ride, he decided it was time to say bye-bye, blokes, and off he went on the D'Aubisque. So we're seeing Ugrumov now really putting the pressure on the race today. The position then that Ugrumov is in the lead. He went over the top of the D'Aubisque ahead of Neil Stevens. Just 42 seconds was the gap at that particular point. Robert Sierra was over in third spot. Jalabert was fourth. Pistore was in fifth spot. And the rest of the group stacked quite behind it. One thought really on the D'Aubisque then, as Ugrumov here, 1 minute 10 seconds ahead of the chasers, that Ugrumov might be caught on the descent, but he dropped like a stone and stayed away from them. And he's now still out there as we're attacking this climb then up the Col de Portalet. And when they get to the top of this climb, 94 kilometers will have been covered, and this man will be virtually on his own for something approaching some 50 kilometers. A superb ride. I'm a great Ugrumov supporter, and I'm talking to Robert Miller, my co-commentator here, and he said perhaps you're the only one that supports him, David. Tell me why, Rob. What's about Ugrumov that made you say that?
Well, unfortunately, the Russian riders don't have very good reputations. They're rather quiet people, very reserved, and Ugrumov is one of them. He doesn't have many friends, but it's unfortunate because he's a very good rider.
Yeah, I remember this finish of the Tour de France last year when he and Pantani were up there second and third, and with Indrange smiling. He looked very glum indeed. You know, you thought being on the rostrum at the Tour de France would at least put a smile on his face.
Sometimes you wonder if they haven't had an operation to take their smile away from him. They're so reserved. Yep. But it doesn't stop them riding very fast indeed.
Of course, he's been around a long time. One of these professionals who came on the scene after the Iron Curtain came down, and so many of the riders came from Russia to join where they could see the money. And of course, I think, Robert, didn't they come across for much less salaries than some of the European riders were riding for?
Yeah, when the Russians first came to Europe to ride for the Alpine team in Italy, the money they were getting was very poor indeed, and it was a bit like an amateur setup. But now they've all split up and moved to different countries and different teams, and they're getting the money that they deserve now.
103 then the gap back to Bartoli and Forniciari. Bartoli here, 151, the team captain of the Seiko team. They ride with the Seiko stickers all over their jerseys, more prominent than Mercatone Uno, because outside Italy they're allowed to increase the size of the Seiko name because that's their main sponsor outside Italy, where Mercatone Uno, who is a supermarket group, is the main sponsor in certain other races, including the Tour de France. Hello, it looks like he's taken off his covered off his feet here and abandoned them on the side of the road. The two riding very well together here at the moment, and they've got to do just that because Bartoli took a right old pasting yesterday. He lost 8 minutes and 15 seconds on the stage yesterday, which finished up at Luzardiden, and he dropped down the classification from 5th to 11th. So he's now trying to fight his way back, and we're looking down the field here to see the rest of the riders coming up. And I should have thought that probably at some point we might see the yellow perils on the front, the Once team driving this one up this climb. What sort of climb is it, Robert? We're on just looking at the top end of this one, but you've been over it before.
It's one of the main roads in from France into Spain, and it's a very good surface on the way up, not so nice on the way down. Normally tailwind for the riders. A long gradual climb, nothing really steep, but it gets a little bit steeper towards the top where the climbers have a little bit of an advantage. It's a very easy hill for the group to chase down somebody because it's such a wide road and the wind plays a lot of comes into play a lot.
And what about the chances then of Ugrumov staying away over the top of this climb? Because further down the valley, I mean, he only had 42 seconds when he went over the top of the D'Aubisque. He got away from them on the descent through there, and up the kilometre 70, Ugrumov came through 2 minutes 36 seconds ahead of the main group, which is led by Linas Biruta over that sprint, with Robert Sierra in third spot. So the gap back to the onset at that moment was 2 minutes 36 seconds. It looks now from our clock that he's well away from the Onse team at the moment, so he's driving away off the front of the Onse squad. And looking back down here, we've got what, 3 more riders coming up, so this today is going to be a real tough old day. So looks like more chance of Ugrumov staying away at the moment.
Yeah, normally a day like today would be the last chance for a lot of riders who are not really concerned by the general classification. So this Ugramov's realised that, and he's taken his life in his hands for today for the stage win. And I honestly won't be too concerned. Ugramov's a long way down at this stage of the race. This is probably the last chance for Ugrumov to salvage something from his Tour of Spain.
Yeah, and he had not a very good season either, did he? Because he didn't ride the Tour de France after that problem in the Tour of Switzerland when he got thumped by a mountain bike rider and cracked his ribs open. Ugramov's lying 27th on the general classification, 44 minutes down on Jalabert. So no wonder the little knot of yellow riders who we'll shortly see bringing the main pack up are quite happy to let him drift away off the front. But still off the top of this climb in towards the finish. They've got a long old way to go because there's still another 63 kilometres ahead on the run down into the finish at Sabinanigo. And so they've got some way to go yet, but I think those little groups that are forming ahead of the Onse team here, driving up with Jalabert sat in the middle, may be quite happy to let them stay out there for a short while on this rather interesting route, which has taken them out of Lutzon-Sauber towards Lourdes, and we turned left on the road out of from Cotteret to Lourdes, back parallel to the French-Spanish border, then turn left, and the riders now are heading absolutely due south in towards Sabinanigo. Near the bottom of the descent from that climb, the first category climb of the Col de Portalet, still in the lead, Ugrumov, chased down by these 2 riders here over the top of the climb. The gap was 1 minute and 3 seconds between Ugrumov and Bartoli and Fornicere, and Ugrumov may be happy, I think, if they come up to him, because there really has been a lot of splits over the top and over 4 minutes back to the main group, which includes the yellow jersey of Jalabert. So perhaps it might be an opportunity for him to get some help. He's been really forcing the pace all day today, has the Gewiss team. And now he's getting some team information. Here they're coming up very quickly. It's a nice move. His team has come up to say, hang on, you've got to help coming up here, and I'm sure that will aid him in his run in towards the finish. Getting on the flatter part of the course, getting towards the 100 kilometres covered today. It's a fairly short stage, 157 kilometres of racing today, and here they come. The yellow train really driving this one along. Well, he attacked up the climb of the D'Aubisque, did Ugrumov. He was only 40 seconds ahead at 50 kilometres over the top. He's now got some help here as they're going along. So he's had about 50 kilometres out on his own, something over 30 miles, and now he's got some assistance, having got up to a breakaway group and then steamed off on his own, and there's more on the way down by the looks of it. They've just reeled in the Castellblanch rider who went over the top, 2 minutes and 16 seconds down on Ugrumov. He couldn't quite get up to this little twosome in front, really being driven along by Bartoli. Another of the new young kids on the block. Have you ridden much with this fellow Bartoli at all, Robert? Because he seems to be tipped very much by the Italian press as one of the up-and-coming lads.
I've ridden with him before. He got really strong. Last year he wasn't quite as strong. And I rode a number of races with him where he showed himself in the front, but not in the final of most of the races. But he's came on a lot this year, and he's one of the bright prospects for the future.
there seems to be quite a lot of lads breaking through. In fact, in this race, we've been watching the performances of Pistore, who's been climbing so well, and the rumours are flying around thick and fast now. Let me just tell you, this is a rumour that evidently he had only got a verbal contract for 2 years, and his team manager was talking to him a few weeks back and wasn't too keen on him going to ride for the team next year, and virtually he was left to drift off, and he was looking for something else to do, was Pistore. They didn't think he'd actually come on good. He's a first-year pro, and he hadn't shown much this year. And of course, he's been romping up the mountains, riding like a dream. He went away in a break with Jalabert the other day. He's now got the white jersey as second on the King of the Mountains classification, and suddenly he's got lots of teams sniffing around him because he hasn't got a contract for next year. Well, he has got a contract, verbal one. Gewiss have been talking to him, so these rumours say. Lampre's been talking to him. Carrera have been talking to him, and Once have even been talking to him and said, well, why don't you come and join us, even though you're an Italian. Look, we've had Jalabert in the team and people like Bruyneel in the team, so it doesn't matter, although we're mainly a Spanish-based team. So these are the conversations going on at the moment for Pistore. But I do advise you, these are all rumours, and journalists are very good at shooting rumours around. But what would you do, Robert, in Pistore's place at the moment, except for looking for more money, because that's suddenly become hot property?
Obviously, with his performances in this Tour of Spain, he's going to become a bit of a bright prospect, and a lot of teams will be wanting to sign him for next year. But Pistore's situation, if I was him, I think I'd probably stay in Italy for the moment. Wait a little bit to see how I progress before thinking of moving to a team like Once, where the workload is very heavy. He probably will be a little bit more comfortable if he stays in an Italian team for next year.
It does seem, too, also, you can have a good season, and the next one is not so good, particularly if you're a young rider. You just get a lucky break like this. I mean, Berzin's been quite a good rider over the years, but he did so extremely well in the Giro year before that, or year before this, and everybody hyped him up, and he's been riding reasonably well since then. He had a fairly good season, but has not been quite at the same level. I mean, it's an up and down business being a professional bike racer, isn't it?
It's very difficult to have a good season and you follow it up with another excellent season the year afterwards. It takes a lot out of you. And, your body takes a little bit of time to recover in between each season. Even though the winter does seem long when you're not actually competing, you need a long time to build up reserves again, which you're going to have to use over the following year.
You said if he joins another team, they expect a lot of him, and that would not show. What sort of, I mean, he obviously wouldn't go in as team leader if he went to other teams. What sort of pressure would they put on him?
Well, if he moves to another team, he'll move there as team climber, which is maybe not as under as much pressure as the actual team leader, but he is expected to do well in the climbs, and to do that you have to follow the race very closely up until the climbs, and you're under almost the same amount of pressure as a team leader, although you don't basically have the same responsibility. And it can be difficult to cope with when you're a young guy like him and you don't really have the experience of the different races.
Well, that breakaway group, which include Nybar, Meyer, Ozols, Garcia Casas, Tibaldi, who were trying to hound down the threesome up in front, has now been swallowed up by the yellow perils here. And there, the team manager, Saiz of the Once team, an amazing character. He certainly has built up a very, very strong squad here, the Once team. Having a word with Jalabert there with the white cap on, riding in the yellow jersey. You can tell the difference between his yellow jersey of the team as a race leader and the Once riders, because the Once one's got a black patch running down from the arm. He sent it straight up the front for some reason. What's going on here?
I think he's given them out new orders for today, and looks like Jalabert's going to tell the guys who are riding here at the Isabella to take it easy now and let somebody else do the chasing. Once you don't really have to chase these guys down, they're all more than 40 minutes behind us, and there's a danger to them.
It looks like the local equivalent of the pom-pom girls are out there on the side of the road to cheer the riders through, and the field is regrouping here. At one time that main bunch had splint. I'm not quite sure how many are off the back still, but at one time there's a group which was some 11 minutes down at the 86-kilometre mark on the flyaway Ugrumov, and the group containing the yellow jerseys surrounding that worn by Jalabert was only some 2:23 behind Ugrumov, so there's about another 7 minutes back. There's been some more ride, but I rather think that on that final climb some have jumped across now and building up this, what is now the main peloton, with just 3 escapers up in front. As ever, the Artiach team beginning to move through on the front. They've been very, very lively throughout the whole of the race, but we never see much of them. I've never seen much of them outside Spain. What's your experience with the Artiach people, Robert, since the time you used to ride in Spain?
They're a bit like the small Belgian teams, they tend to focus on the local events and the Spanish races, so we never really see them up in any other country except Spain. They do have some excellent riders, and they get really hyped up for the Tour of Spain. It's their main objective of the year, and that's probably why they're riding today. They don't have anybody in the front, and with the help from the Kelme team, they're going to have to try and chase down the guys that are in the front now.
And the yellow jersey comes zooming through, and that is Jalabert, dropping like a stone, trying to keep out of trouble too. Sensible going towards the front. We've had one or two crashes, nothing really serious since the race set out on some of the declines. They got safely off the clop of the Tourmalet yesterday, and if you didn't see yesterday's stage, it was very murky indeed over the Tourmalet when a lot of damage was done. We saw Axel Merckx go over 9.5 minutes down on the main group. If you were listening to our program yesterday, well, I can tell you at the end of the stage he'd really lost a whole hatful of time. He lost 23 minutes and 16 seconds, Axel Merckx, and dropped down from 12th to 21st overall. Disappointing day for him. He was suffering. He got some sort of flu or chest complaint, and they kept providing him with hot chocolate to try and warm him up in the very damp and miserable conditions, but Axel ground his way to the finish and dropped down now to 21st. A great disappointment for him, and I'm sure his father has been out on the race, that after that excellent ride the day before when he tried to follow Jalabert, that he should suffer in such a way and lose so much time yesterday. So that was a bad day then for Axel Merckx. These three riders up in front at the moment look like they may stay away. You never know in this bike game, though. We're going to take a short break. Do come back to see if they stay away. The field streaming along, chasing after the riders you can see in the top left-hand corner of your screen. It was all started by that man Ugrumov there. After this morning, he managed to get up to a group that attacked some 30 kilometers from the start. We started with 119 riders of the 180 or so that started way back from Madrid, so we've been losing quite a lot, and they're now heading back into Spain, and are in Spain, having been out on that little excursion into France over the Pyrenees as such. Not much in the way of big mountains from now on in, so if anybody like Ugrumov wants to get a stage victory, this has got to be it, but he's got two very quick men up there with him. He went after a breakaway group of Arenas, Garces Camacho, Bartoli, Serrano and Pascal Herb. After 30 kilometers being covered, they then went on to cover 35 kilometers in the hour, and Ugrumov came up to them as they went up the first climb some 50 kilometers after the start, and it was there that Ugrumov went over the top, leaving the main bunch behind at 42 seconds as the rest of his breakaway group had been absorbed. Now Bartoli, who at one time was with him, went back in the main group, attacked again on the climb up the climb we just had for you at the Col de Portalet, and now the field is regrouping. A lot more men have come up across that gap. Looking down there to banner, we're not seeing what's on that one, but we do understand that the race is going through the home village of Escatin. Now, Escatin had ridden all this season with the Mapei team. In fact, he's a very, very strong right-hand man of Tony Rominger. But he signed a contract to move on, and I think it's to Kelme next year. And therefore the Mapei team decided that they wouldn't have him in their squad this year, and of course that's left Olano really without a good mountain climber. Because Escatin, a tremendous climber, very strong team man as well, and evidently the people in the village, Escatin's village, are not very happy, and the threats flying about, again it might be typical journalist rumours, is that they're lining up in his village with old rotten tomatoes and eggs, and they're going to pelt the Mapei people. I suppose they won't be able to hit the riders, but they might have a good go at the Mapei car. We've had a really incident-packed Tour of Spain this year, what with the fights going on, the hurricanes, the threats of snow, the motorcycles crashing out, and riders getting spaghetti bolognese, which made 40 of them feel rather ill and have the old two-step next day on their bicycles to the nearest toilets. Well, it's one of those races this year, and Robert, I think you say always this race is full of incidents, isn't it? Yeah,
it's a very interesting race to follow. There's always something different every day. Always something to have a laugh about usually as well.
Well, you can laugh at the end of the season, but when you start the season, it must have been a bit much for you.
Well, when you go there, you're not thinking of it as a holiday at all. But you do tend to enjoy the Tour of Spain more than the other two big tours in the year. It's an easier race to deal with, especially for younger riders, and I think that's why we're seeing a lot more of the young prospects showing what they're capable of doing.
Well, a young-ish prospect, Jalabert, has really dominated this race. In fact, the French press are very much full of it now, because barring accidents, he could ride into Madrid wearing that yellow jersey. It's going to be the first major tour the French have had on their belt since Laurent in the Tour of Italy in 1989. And Eddie Merckx has been quoted as well as saying that if Jalabert concentrated, he feels that he could actually beat Indurain in the Tour de France. So it's amazing, he said, Eddie, that he's been able to ride right the way through from the start of the season, winning the Pyrenees, taking the Milan San Remo, and here right at the back in the season still be going strong in the Vuelta, taking not only the yellow jersey but winning stages as well. So that's the great words of great Eddie Merckx. But of course it's easy in the heat event to say one thing, and then of course somebody's got to live up to it in future years. So Jalabert winning that stage yesterday, his 21st victory in his career this year in 1995, and it's hoisted him, by the way, as Alvaro Pino here of the Kelme team himself, a great rider. In fact, you rode with this fellow, didn't you, eh? Come on, let's say a bit about him.
I know Alvaro Pino very well. He beat me in the 1986 Tour of Spain, and a very good rider in his time, and now he's a very canny director sportif as well. You can see him giving instructions to his rider here just to like wait for the group, because he's like wasting his time in between the two groups here. He's going to wait for the main group to come back, and then he'll ride with them to try and chase the leading pack down.
How much importance is the comments from a team manager like that, Robert, to a rider who thinks he can do something?
Well, with having someone in the car like Pino is very valuable, because he's ridden so many Tour of Spain's, maybe 10 or so, and he knows what's happening, and he can see, he's got a better view of the race from the car than he has from the rider's point of view, especially when the rider's alone like his guy is. And he knows what's going to happen. He's told his guy to wait for the bunch, and then he'll be able to do a bit of work to help them to try to come back in the front.
Well, 1986 that Pino won the Tour of Spain. Robert Billy in second spot, my co-commentator here today, and Sean Kelly back in third spot. Any thoughts when you finally retire about being a team manager, Robert? Does that cross your mind?
Yeah, it has, but it's like, it's a difficult situation to deal with when you want to keep riding and you don't really want to stop to think about things like that. It's not something I would object to, but I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to the idea of stopping racing quite yet.
Well, and the team manager's job is not an easy one, by the way. The phone never stops ringing, and you're working 365 days of the year as well. Mind you, bike riders are pretty well of the same sort, either riding or racing or training or moving to and from events. So it's a fair, tough old life they lead. And in fact, as we're waiting for this rider to go back into the bunch now, quite sensibly there, the season, certainly since you started, Robert, it must have got a lot longer. I mean, the races seem to be very fast in the early part of the year, and here we are coming into October with the World Championships. I can't remember it being quite so fierce and so long as this season.
Well, 15 years back, the races started in February fairly gently. It was only training races, and they ended at the end of September, basically. And now you've added a month before onto the season and another month afterwards. So it's a different thing to deal with, and the races have got a lot more competitive as well. And the basic standard of riding is a lot higher than it used to be.
I've noticed that. It seems to be a lot faster too, but apart from the quality of the riders, the races seem to be conducted at a faster speed.
Well, there's a lot more information on training, on diet, and different aspects of looking after yourself to do well over a whole year. So that tends to push the pace up, and the races have got a lot faster as that progressed.
What about equipment? I don't know, this sort of bike we're looking at, the diamond frame, if you exclude that sort of oversized down tube there on the Bianchi bicycle, it looks visually from here very similar to it was 50, 60, 70 years ago almost. But is there any subtle change you've noticed in your career that's made them that much better, that much quicker, and made performances better?
No, I haven't really noticed any big difference in the bikes. They tend to be a little bit more rigid now, and probably a little heavier than they used to be. But the main difference is the guys are a lot better prepared for the task ahead of them, and I think that's what makes the speed so high nowadays.
Well, there we are watching these two psycho rides on the front, and Ugrumov's gone back in to take a bit of draft and sit in there. One thing that many of them are using now, these brake levers with the gear mix in there as well. But are you still favour the down tube? In fact, I think here the down tube changed also on Ugrumov's bike. Any reason for that?
Well, you only tend to keep the down tube changers for weight reasons for the bike that you're going to use in the mountains, the light bike, and probably that's why Ugrumov's got him on his titanium Bianchi there. I've moved over to the handlebar changing system now, but it's basically because it's a lot easier for the mechanics to set up all the bikes the same than it is over a personal preference.
And about the words of wisdom coming up to Ugrumov, who is sitting in at the moment, having had that long lone ride on his own, and he's now got the Psycho Mokoto Nuno riders with him. And the gap, the last one we had over the top of the mountain, was over 4 minutes, but the chase is coming pretty quick and regularly now, so they've got to really try hard to stay away, these three riders, on the run into finish at Sabiñanigo. Well, the riders coming through. In fact, what was confusing me looking up there, the actual laps they've got to do, is that they're going to do this lap through Sabiñanigo, and so at Sabiñanigo they're going to come through and go round again, and they're putting the cameras up, and I was doing my notes here and got, of course, utterly confused. They're only just going to the 20-kilometre to go point as such. I thought suddenly looking at my watch how they're going to finish in such a short space of time. In reality, they've got this circuit to do, which also takes them twice through the little place where Escartin lives. So we haven't had the tomato throwing episode yet, and I wonder if it's going to happen, or that's just up to the journalist to concoct a story to make it rather interesting. There we are. That's the true distance to go, by the way, confusing everybody. Our cameraman by poking it up at the 6 and 7 kilometres to go boards, and the main pack here now much stronger, much bigger. As I say, it had split into two sizable groups way back on the climb up towards the top of the first category, Portalet. And if the organisers put that in the hope it might change the overall classification on the King of the Mountains, then no way would that be so, because Laurent Jalabert has got so many points there on the King of the Mountains. He just is not going to be dislodged from that top spot, and he also takes the jersey for being best on the points competition as well. The gap has now suddenly come down to 1 minute, and it could be all over bar the shouting. 1 minute, they'll absolutely be able to see them down the road now. You can see the mountain in the background. They come across there, the little flurry of snow just on the tops of the mountains from yesterday, little storms that hit the race. But right now, on the flatter part, the sun coming down, temperatures a little warmer than yesterday when they were hardly much above 3 to 5 degrees all day long and causing problems for the riders. And now Castellblanch have done so much work here. That seems a very good move from the Once team to say, let someone else have a go, Robert, because Once have done so much chasing and looks to be in their favour now.
Well, the Once guys in either rest day, they've been basically riding on the whole race on the front. It's up to the other teams now to do something with this race. They've got to justify being there for their sponsors also, and they have to take over the leading a little bit. With only a gap of 1 minute for the last 220 kilometers to go, it's going to be very close for three riders in the front. A peloton like this will easily take 30 seconds out of them every 10 kilometers, so it's going to be a very close thing.
And they're going extremely quick to this Artiach team, who have still got all of 8 riders in the race at the moment. They started 9 men. They've only dropped 1 man off so far. It's amazing how many riders have really got out from a lot of the teams. Looking down the list, the Once team is the only one that's still there. They've got every man that's still racing that started, although Alex Zuller did want to go home a couple of days before he finally won that stage up the mountain. So they are the only compact and complete team in the race, the team from the Once squad, but some of them are even worse off than that, with the team from Chazelle down to just 2 riders at the moment, and Gan just down to 3. So some of the riders having dropped out through misfortune. I mean, Gan must really be the most unfortunate team of the year. I think if you had a trophy at the end of the year, the most unfortunate team, it must go to Gan, because Darami, their rider, didn't even start the prologue because he ran into a police van and couldn't start the prologue, so that put them out of it right from day one. And Albia got involved in the crash as well. And my mind goes back to the Tour de France when we had Chris Boardman out on day one. So Gan not having a very good year this year, Robert.
Well, maybe being an insurance company, they've taken out some cover for these things.
They need it, I think, at the moment.
Well, hopefully for them they have.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was the rally squad, we did in fact insure our riders so that if they crashed and couldn't ride, we could pay their salary out of insurance, because it's a very expensive thing to have a salary bill and to find the riders can't compete for not their own reason, but through illness or sickness and an accident. So there we are, the Artiach on the front. They make quite a change here to see them driving. We see nothing but yellow on the front. I'm thinking I should adjust the colour of my television set, but it seems that we're now getting a different shape of things. And Kelme coming through here. Cabello goes reasonably quickly, I think, in the sprint. I can't think they would expect anybody else to do much more, but they've probably at the moment also decided with the Artiach team it's about time the Spaniards got in with a shout for a stage victory, because we had Olano win the prologue stage on day one, and since then the Spaniards really have been out of the frame when it comes to a stage victory. So perhaps they're deciding today is the day when they're going to pull back these leading three who are now coming through the finishing line for the Metabalance. They're not too interested in the points for this intermediate sprint competition, which has been dominated by the rider from the Telecom team, Stefan Bessermann. Much to the delight of the Germans. The Germans have done so well in this race so far. They had that stage victory at Serra Nevada, and Dietz got that one, and then into Murcia when Hen got it, and Bush got the one to Valencia. And our good friend and co-commentator Rudi Altig looking very fit and well, working with Peter Voigt. Very pleased with the Germans' performance so far this Vuelta. Clock running is going to be a bit of a difficult job to stay away. The sun shining. What a tremendous contrast to the problems we had up in the Pyrenees when the rain and the threat of snow kept the spectators away, and they all stopped at home to watch it on television. Looking down the group there, it looks like Axel Merckx is in that little group, which will be happy news, I think, to Motorola followers. And as they go across the line now, the gap only coming down, was going to be less than 30 seconds. That looks like it might be over and done with. No, just outside 30. Good ride by the Artiach on the front, then the Kelme rider. You see the yellow jersey, Lonte in behind them. A nice little pack here, all keen to pull this thing back together. And any sprint that's made it over the mountain will be licking his lips for the hope here of getting a victory. 42 seconds then, the lead for our three riders. I'm saying that the Motorola people are happy. I think that they've got Axel Merckx looking a lot better after the problems he's had. Paul Sherwin, who's one of the cycling commentators, consultants they call him in France, I understand he's going off to the mountain bike world championships in Germany. I can't think why a Motorola man will be going all the way to the world championships in Germany as they're doing a sponsorship there. So I wonder if he's looking for a mountain bike rider next year with the Olympic Games, including a mountain bike section in the Olympics. I don't know. All, no doubt, again, will be revealed. The hot pursuit then, some 42 seconds separating this group from the three riders on the front. Ugrumov, who set it all off when he went away on that climb with 50 kilometers of the race covered. Here we are now in the finished town doing one complete lap round. Here we haven't seen the tomato throwing and egg throwing we were promised by some segments of the press, so let's hope the race goes through without any problems at all. But the little group in front are well in sight now of the chasers, and here are our leaders out on the road, circling back round in toward the town. Bartoli, 151 there, and his teammate, the big tall fellow, who is probably, I think, one of the 100-kilometer riders from the times gone by, Forniciari, driving along here for the Psycho Mercatonian team, and the man who started all, Ugrumov, hanging on in at the back.
Going to have a difficult time staying ahead here because the circuit now heads back out into the countryside, and there's some long hills if I remember correctly, and it's pretty windy out there, so the chasing bunch is going to have the advantage when they head back out into the countryside.
It must be a disappointment, Robert, and you've been a great mountain climber, to have a course like this, with the last climb being some 60 kilometers from the finish once you go over the thing, and to get away and then have this sort of rolling armada behind that eats up the earth behind you, because you do all the work in the mountains and then they have these long runs back into the finish. It just must be a bit, I mean, look at, I remember romping away in the Leeds Classic up the home Moss, and when you get to the top of that, because you've got a long run back into Leeds, haven't you?
Well, sometimes you're disappointed, but you got to remember that the race is for everybody, not only for climbers or for sprinters. There's something for everybody every day, and you have to be able to deal with that. See the guys that will come back here because they know the bunch is going to catch them soon, and they'll probably receive the information that the bunch is catching them up very fast. So they'll probably be just trying to get over the next hill with a little bit of a lead, and then they'll be swallowed up with a bunch, and they can try and hide in there and stay with them till the finish.
There's, of course, always the opportunity. Sometimes it happens that the bunch eases back a bit too soon, and they go away. That's always the hope that they suddenly get blown up at the back just as they close up and the gap stays it is, but I think it's going to be not so much a possibility. In fact, Ugrumov seems to have stopped relaying on the front now. Through it's all the Artiachs in fine numbers, and they look quite relaxed back in the bunch, so don't they? Well, Richard Bronk's Lotus team beginning to move up to the front as well. Bronk had been hoping, I'm sure, for a stage victory in the Vuelta this year, but didn't come quite his way.
Virenque has a good sprint finish, but in a group of this size, maybe 60, 70 riders, it'll be difficult to win. He may be up there in the first 5 or 6, but
well, a big man, of course, with the Artiach team. This fellow Saitov, the Russian, isn't he? Now he's riding number 17, and he has been able to get over some of the mountains. So the one fellow we've got to watch out. In fact, I wouldn't have thought that Artiach would drive this one hard if Saitov hadn't made it.
Yeah, Saitov must be present back in the middle of the group, otherwise he wouldn't be doing so much work to pull back the leaders.
He's been around quite a long time, actually, Saitov, hasn't he? I'm thinking, in fact, he won some of the sprints competitions. Looking back here, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, Saitov won the special sprints competition, and he won it again a couple of years back as well. So he's no stranger to the Spanish setup as such, and one of the Russians that actually packed his bag and went down into Spain rather than into Italy like some of the other ones have done. Just a quick look at the white jersey of Pistore. We haven't seen much of him. He was just off your screen on the right-hand side. And as I said earlier on, a man under much interest as regards some of the team managers who has a contract with the Polti team, which at the moment is only a verbal one, so other people are still looking around to try and get him in their squad. But I suspect that he may well stay there with Polti, as Robert was saying. I'm intrigued, actually, he has a verbal contract. This may be as journalism, Robert. I thought most things get written down this day and age because you never know what's going to happen, do you?
Well, he's probably received a verbal contract to say that he can leave, and now that he's riding so well, they've changed their mind and there's nothing to prove that he said that in the first place. Because normally, for a new professional, they have a 2-year contract, and that'll be written and signed. So if they told him he can leave, and then he started producing some remarkable feats, then probably changed their mind.
Yeah, because there was a rumour that, again, it's rumoured that on the career squad, when Leonardo Sierra started slinging punches in the race and got thrown out, that they decided that was ungentlemanly conduct and he broke his contract and he was thrown out of the team. They're saying, well, you know, Johnny's one way of getting rid of him next year. I suppose sometimes you're not riding very well. There's always that opportunity. That's only, again, rumours flying around all over the place. The other fellow that was involved in that punch-up, by the way, is in the Spanish squad. And at the moment, the UCI have not taken any action against the fighting going on. So it looks like he will probably be able to go over to the World Championships and compete over there. So we'll have to wait and see just how he does then. In the World Championship, having involved himself in the fisticuffs. And so Gonzalez Arrieta will be going to Colombia, as we understand at the moment. The UCI making no decision on that little kerfuffle, which provided some amusement to all and sundry, and fortunately didn't result in too much damage to the rider. Although Ugrumov has decided that he might as well try and ride off the front of this little one, and he's been very active today. He waited for a bit behind those two. I thought he was too tired to go back into the bunch, but he's gone off the front 10 kilometres to go. That's a very, very I don't know, I wouldn't say mad thing to do, but it's, as you said, Robert, on these climbs, it's an opportunity.
He's going to have a great deal of difficulty staying in the front here, because there's a number of fields like this long dragging hill with the wind in your face, and the bunch, there'll be a number of reactions back from the bunch to try and catch him. He probably just took a rest behind the two guys, the two Italians there, and then he's thrown down his last chance, but it'll be very difficult for him now.
And there the other two riders getting swept up one by one. The hopefuls are being reeled in. It's been like that all the way through the day since the first attacks came after some 30 kilometres. Arnas, Garces Camacho, Bartoli, Sorano and Pastore went away. They lasted out there for one like the best part of 20 kilometers. They hit the bottom of the mountain. They were joined by Ugrumov, who then left everybody over the top and pressed on, and is still persisting with his attempt to stay clear of this big bunch of riders and to get a victory in this year's tour on his list of successes. Again, the rolling closure you see on the right-hand side, unlike the Tour de France, where the roads are absolutely shut down, the Spanish operate the rolling closure. Of course, with such a big country as well, it's quite possible to do it, leave large spaces without any cars. It's always been a problem back in Great Britain when we have rolling closure, that one half of the road seems to be occupied by cars for large stretches of the road. 9 Ks to go for the chasing group, and they can see their man in front down there. In your experience, Robert, was this rolling closure quite effective in Spain?
Yeah, normally Spain is quite safe to safe because there's not much danger from cars inside the road. Only the days where there's side wind does it get a little bit dangerous, and then the cars move directly onto the grass. So there's not really a lot of problems. It's a very big country, and out in the country there's not a lot of danger at all. The roads are very wide, and there's no problems really.
What's the attitude of the spectators out there? You know, we get them sort of mad Italian tifoses, and you get, you know, the French who seem to be very intellectual about cycling. What's the sort of Spanish attitude? Seem to be very strongly supported.
It's a more down-to-earth attitude with the cycling in Spain. Not so seasonal as France. Probably a little bit like Italy, although not as passionate about the cycling as the Italians are. More down-to-earth approach to the thing.
Well, they've got a good team here, the Spaniards, the Artiach team, which has got Orlando Rodriguez in the squad, Portugal rider, the Russian rider Saitov as well. They're trying to set this one up. There's 7 kilometers to go for Ugrumov for a sprint finish if they can catch this fella. Ugrumov determined to try and stay away on this, the 18th stage then, from Lutz, Saveur to Sabinanigo, and the big bunch have got him in sight now, and they're going to leave him out there to fry at the moment. Still, the Artiach team have been doing so much of the driving hard, and that gap probably less than 20 seconds, and it could well be all over by the shout. Because we talk about the sprinters in this group that might well be in with a shout. We mustn't forget the very quick riding of Jalabert when it comes to sprinting. He came into prominence mainly as a sprint specialist, and now he's proved himself an all-rounder. And if they come together, Jalabert could be looking for his 6th victory in the Tour this year. We've got another road stage tomorrow, and then the following day it'll be the time trial stage, Piotr, at just a 42-kilometer time trial. And then the final stage on the Sunday is in Madrid, at the circuit on the centre of Madrid. So Jalabert, who got 7 victories last year in the Tour of Spain, looking perhaps to try and equal his success last year. It isn't the highest scoring, by the way. The great Belgian sprinter Freddie Mertens won no less than 12 stages one year in the Tour of Spain. He seems to have set up most records of stage victories as of old Freddie. A demon sprinter he was. So Jalabert's 7 last year, still a very good performance indeed, one of the best there is, but he's going a long way to try and equal the old Freddie. .23 seconds, still hovering out there. Would you like being sucked on in the middle of that, Robin?
It's a lot more comfortable than what Ugrumov is for the moment. The Artiach guys have got come back together again and got it organised. But maybe this long drag will give Ugrumov the chance to settle down again and to have a little bit of an advantage. Every time they go downhill, the peloton is going to ride faster than Ugrumov, and every time he's on an uphill, he'll be able to maintain the advantage that he has.
And there the telecom colours beginning to come forward just a little bit toward the front. Saitov is in the he doesn't wear the Castellblanch colour. I just saw him there, by the way, when we go back. You have to look out for the Russian national colours. He's the Russian national champion. I did spot him back there, so he's made it over the big mountain, and that's why Asiat are driving hard. He's got a jersey which got mainly white at the top, then it goes down to red and a power blue after that. So I think that as many other people know, there's 1 or 2 sprinters that made it over the top. We're going to get these hopefuls hammering off the front to try and do something about it. Pascal Herber went on an early break this morning. He's decided that he might as well put, you know, a bit of a sandwich on it by going for a late one as well. He's another chap who came into pro ranks very late on, didn't he? Well, he's 30 something when he turned pro, 29.
Yeah, I think he turned professional in his late 20s.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time in the under ranks in France and won basically almost all the races before he decided to turn professional. Just to see how good he was, and he's turned out to be a very good rider. He's always present in the breaks that happen every day, and Festina are very lucky that they have somebody like him who is able to do that.
16 seconds it is, and still driving hard on the front. There you can see 1, 2, third back on that string from the Artiach. You see that white jersey there? That is Saitov, the Russian champion, who would dearly like to get himself a stage victory today. And still, nothing you can do but just persist with this one. 4 kilometres to go. Well, at the end of the race, if he does get swallowed up and they've got an award for the man of the match, it ought to go to this fellow. He's determined today to try and get a stage victory. Very smooth, pedalling, stylish rider, but this big bunch contains some pretty quick men. I see TVM also beginning to move through to the front, because if Jesper Skibby, for instance, made it over the top of that climb, and I think no reason why he shouldn't.
Yeah, looks like Skibby.
Yeah, he'll be looking for another stage victory. He's already had one this year. And there's Saitov, third back.
Jesper Skibby will probably have an attack maybe 1,200 meters from the line like he usually does, but everybody knows he's going to do it, so it's just a matter of waiting for him to do it, really.
Does anybody deliberately follow him?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of guys waiting for him to attack just before the last kilometer flag, so he'll be a watched man, especially if he's come to the front and shown that he's there.
How much, Robert, with so many new riders coming on now, does it break the rhythm? And you've been out for a long time now. The forms seem to be there. I was talking to Stephen Roach about, races had a certain pattern. They seem to be not so readable now.
Well, until there's a number of established riders controlling their race, there's no real pattern to the race when the new professionals come along. They tend to keep the same ideas as they had in the amateurs.
Well, another man I think who would like to ride on Skibby's tail will be that great Russian Ekimov, who's another specialist when he comes from about 1 kilometre out or 2 kilometres out to start driving away. So we might see a bit of a change in the chasing group when people like Ekimov and Skibby start to find their way through to the front and see if they can stretch it and crack the elastic and get away. But still Ugrumov out in front. He finished third in the Tour of Italy this year. Ugrumov looking for a stage victory. A couple of stage victories in the Tour of France last year. But this little lot, I think, have got him well and truly in their sights. Here he is. Disappointed not to ride the Tour this year. Looks for a victory because this might be the last big occasion other than the World Championships for him to do something spectacular. They've got him well and truly in sight. Ugrumov now just about 20 seconds ahead. Most of the Artiach lead-out men have drifted away, and it's left Saitov with only one man on the front, and so the attacks are coming. As we thought, inside the final 2 kilometres, those hopefuls who can't expect to outsprint Saitov or Vust or Weseman or any of the other big hitters in there are now going to try and go for the long ones.
It's Alonso here. Similar rider to Skibby, the same idea, attack 2 kilometres from the finish, and hope he can hold them off. He can ride very fast. The last kilometre is normally a lead-up man for the sprinters that the Monster have had in the past.
And there is the 1 kilometre to go. Ugrumov, who went away on the climb up the 50 kilometres from the start, the Col D'Aubisque, and he's been out there now for something about 105 kilometres, and they've nearly got him. Ugrumov has now been closed down. In fact, no, it's Olano, isn't it?
That's Skibby going across to Alonso, so no, it's not Skibby.
And Psycho again, but Alonso's got some company, but he's not going to do much help, I think. So Alonso looked back over his shoulders, and again Psycho decided to try and put the pressure on here. What a real job this man's doing out here, hanging on for grim death, and they're all coming at him from all directions. They all got towed up by the Artiach team, and Alonso's still going. Here comes the rest of the bit, and he's got the finish inside. Ugrumov now trying to go, and out of the main pack comes the Telecom rider. It looks as if they're going to try and close him down on the run into the finish, and still Ugrumov is hanging on here, and the crowd are applauding this fellow. He's ridden so hard, 107 kilometres on the front to try and get the stage victory he so desperately wants in this race. He's now 150 kilometres to go, 150 metres to go, 100 metres to go, and they're coming at him now. The big sprinter, they're coming. Saitov's unleashing his sprint there and trying to come up to it, and he gets out the saddle and goes yet again. Vuss is in there too, in the red jersey, and he's been overtaken on the line, and that's it. He's lost that one. Looks like it went to Saitov of the Artiach team, and well, what a disappointment for Ugrumov. He got swallowed up at the last moment, and those chaps holding hands there are the Artiach team. They set their man at Saitov, and he came past Ugrumov with about 50 metres to go, and poor Ugrumov now has gone right back to about 10th or 12th in the front. What a great disappointment. All say, what a shame. You got a feel for him, Robert, don't you, eh?
Well, I hope Saitov's going to buy him a vodka now, because he won't be talking to him otherwise for a long time.
Let's look at it from the top then, as Ugrumov hanging on there. Saitov in that whitish jersey in the centre comes thundering through here. There is Ugrumov. He's got him in his sights. Ugramov's got absolutely nothing left. And I think that's Skibby out there on the side. I'm not quite sure. I was concentrating on Saitov so much. Looks like Skibby, and then Weizmann probably for the red jersey on the special sprints for Telecom. But Telecom had worked hard to set them out. It is Skibby, isn't it, coming up here? I was co-concentrating on, first of all, Ugrumov, who was trying to find some more power in it. They got a slightly uphill finish here, which was going to benefit him. But Saitov started pumping on the pedals, fellow with the white top to his jersey. He gets that one. Yep. And in fact, it was not Weizmann, but Vuss that came in second spot. Let's look at that one again. Saitov. Yep. Vuss over into third. And apparently Peter Meinhardt that finished in third spot, not Skibby. Have a little look at that one again. I didn't quite pick up. Wasn't too much to check the red jersey, because the trouble is confusion in this race when you get reddish coloured jerseys, but the Castellblanch...
He's not Marshall Wurst, it's not his style. He's like a Spanish rider from the same team.
The Castellblanch, it looked a bit like him to me.
No, it's not Marcel, because the other sprinter with the on the brake levers.
Yep. No. Well, certainly no doubt about Saitov taking that one. 4 hours and 5 minutes for the 157 kilometres today. Look in the background there at the Pyrenees. The riders were very happy to say bye-bye to that little lot as the sprinters are coming back into their own, but still Jalabert wears the yellow. Saitov taking the stage victory.